you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they want to do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shit.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, today's going to be a great discussion. We're going to be talking about some of the fear tactics that inmates may utilize against staff to kind of steal that perception of authority. And when I talk about fear tactics, it's more of like a passive-aggressive attempt to steal staff's authority when staff has to do something, when staff has to get a directive out there, maybe write up an inmate. We're not talking about a physical fear. We're not talking about I'm afraid of the inmate. It's more about the job function. Now, inmates may say little things to make us feel hesitant about doing our job, kind of taking that level of authority away from us. And I really want to highlight the passive aggressive, even though we'll talk about the aggressive, it's usually the passive aggressive that may go unnoticed. And we may not realize that we're kind of giving that inmate that level of power when we don't react to it. You know, when basically we just allow that inmate to get that statement off, or we become disenfranchised without us realizing, because that's another aspect of that. And today we have Connie Alleyne, which, by the way, Connie Alleyne, today is October 30th. Let me congratulate you. The cage was her cocoon, is now officially out on the market. Congratulations. What a hell of a milestone.
Thank you. And I mean, yes, it's exciting. It's very, very exciting. I think for me, I'm excited about the story getting out there. I'm excited about the service that the book actually will provide to people who really need it.
Yeah, it's a great book. And I know the pre-sales went well. I'm sure the regular sales will go well. But now, guys, if you get the book will be in your hands because it's out in the market. So real quick, if you got the book on, let's say, pre-sale, when would they have gotten the book? Today?
No. So what happens is after pre-sale, essentially the book gets printed and then they send me the printed copies so that I can actually autograph them. So they should probably get the book within a week or two.
Wow, that's got to be exciting. Got to be exciting for you, but also exciting for the people who invested in your book. I'm sure they can't wait to get a hold of that and read that book. I'm really excited for you, Connie. You deserve this. So,
Thank you.
Well done. And I'll be right behind you. I will. I'm having fun doing my journey right now, guys. Just to let you know, it's in the final line edits, or it's getting there. The gentleman, Gio, did a phenomenal job. He read the book multiple times, which I think that itself shows you dedication. And then he's sending me on a photo shoot to JCPenney's, sending me pictures like I could look like Jake Gyllenhaal or Daniel Craig. It's probably not going to happen. Real quick, me and my wife had a discussion about this. And, when they showed me the pictures, you got these guys, they're pretty much model type. And then my wife's trying to be like, she goes, you don't have clothes that's going to fit you in that way. Yeah, no fooling. So, yeah, thanks for being gentle. Yeah, I know that. You know what I mean? I know that. That's just, guys, I'm laughing, but it kills me on the inside. So, no, I'm kidding. You can laugh, Connie. I'm joking. I'm 43 years old, man. This is the best I'm ever going to look. I've accepted that. I've accepted. You guys should accept it too. Motivational. All right, so I'm here to motivate. But guys, we're gonna have a great dialogue again, and just a celebration of a great milestone. But how inmates can employ a fear tactic to stop us from doing our job. We're not talking about a physical fear, guys. I want to get that out there. It's more of like certain things that they say that kind of steals that perception of authority. And again, we're going to focus on, there are some ones that are overtly aggressive, but it's the passive aggressive ones. So guys, when we come back, we have a lot to discuss. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tier Talk to you, brave men and women that work in corrections. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. That bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor. When we come back, let's talk about these fear tactics. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it. It's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Guys, inmate manipulation is a course that is highly needed. It's the process that's so slow moving and subtle that you don't realize it's happening. When inmates choose to manipulate, they manipulate our need to react. Situational awareness and insight is going to save your career. It's going to save you from doing foolish things. Listen to your gut. So the more insight we have, the more we can recognize what isn't so overt, and we can correct our behavior before we fall into a trap that we can't get out of. If you allow an inmate to pull you out of your prescribed role, you are opening up a door for a host of problems. Inmate manipulation, the psychology behind inmate manipulation. Available now. Link in description.
All right, and we're back. Connie, I'm going to start off with this because I'm sure a lot of our people in our audience, right, they're going to recognize this, and you know it, Connie, okay? The moment you don't give a manipulative inmate what they want, they may be quick to say this, but it's subtle. All right, I guess I'll just call my lawyer.
Pretty much.
Okay, so what do you think?
They don't hesitate to say that, though. I feel like that's like the ace in the hole, but they use it too quickly.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question, though. So I'm sure our staff's heard this before. Why do you think an inmate tries to say that? Why do you think they want to get that out there? What do you think they want staff to think when they say that?
So I think they know that they know that staff don't want to have to deal with their attorneys, right? They know that, you know, we don't necessarily want to have to deal with the lawyer and all that comes along with that. And at the end of the day, we try to meet whatever that requirement or that request is the best way possible, if we can, to avoid anything being escalated, because your attorney gets involved and we have to escalate to our legal department as well to get that necessary support. So I think they kind of just throw that out there just to kind of shake you up a little bit and try to make you kind of comply.
Yeah, and believe it or not, it does start to get to staff because, again, you're doing your job, you're doing what's expected of you. And let's say this inmate does happen to have a good lawyer. Let's say this inmate is even won a case. That doesn't mean that they're right 100% of the time. And then when they go ahead, and if there is that reputation where that inmate has that lawyer, that inmate's going to think that they have a level of power because they won that case and they have this really good attorney. So what they do is they try to put that fear that, okay, if you even do this, I'll just call my lawyer. And some of us are just like, we don't want to be bothered by it. You know, so at that point, whatever, and we don't realize we're giving that inmate what they want. If you're not doing nothing wrong, then don't let that inmate use that, because that's intimidation. It's very passive aggressive, but it's intimidation. And you know what's funny is when that's used on me, I get very upset automatically because I know why it's being done. Where I've seen some people, they kind of don't have the reaction to it. Like to them, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, there's that inmate talking about his lawyer again. Yeah, but guys, you know why he's doing it? Or do you know why she's doing it? They're doing it because you have a level of authority over them. And when they go to say it, they know that you move back. They know that you're disenfranchised. They know that, or in some cases, you don't want to, you're afraid because, oh, I called my lawyer. I'm afraid now to deal with that inmate because, hey, that inmate has a lawyer. What they're doing is, guys, they're taking that perception of authority and you have to protect it. So that's why when the inmate drops that, however passively aggressive, I react to it automatically because I know right off the bat that inmate is taking or trying to take some level of control from me to stop me from what needs to be done. Would you agree? And it is passive aggressive. Right?
Yeah, I was about to say, but I mean, even though I think it's passive aggressive, I think they also know that we don't want no problems, right? You're coming to work, you're trying to just do your job. You don't want your name on nobody's paperwork. You don't want to get called down nowhere to answer no questions. You don't want to be bothered. So they throw out that legal situation and you're like, oh, come on. Like, that's the last thing you want because you got enough going on in your day. The last thing you want to have to do is deal with somebody's attorney.
Right. And you know what? They always choose people that may have that or could be assumed to have that higher level of authority. Like they're going to assume, like we can even talk about, you mentioned this before, an administrator or a warden. You know, I mean, you had a perfect example before. What was the example?
Yeah. What I was saying was, you know, I had a situation where it was like, all right, well, I'll wait for the wardens on the tier, right? Like, it's almost like, well, he's trying to get the officer in the unit to do something. but he's going to now leverage the warden. You know, the warden does his walkthrough. He's going to try to leverage or in some way have an encounter with the warden so he could, you know, say his piece. Because when the warden walks through, he is trying to, you know, engage a little bit. I mean, he's not taking over in anybody's unit, but he will have a conversation if somebody has something they have to say to him. I mean, I've walked with some great wardens that was like, write it. Send me a note, right? Like, because they know that they're trying to manipulate the fact that I'm on the tier or the warden's on the tier and he's trying to, you know, just do what he needs to do. He's touring, you know, he's not touring so that you can come and monopolize 10 minutes of his time or however much time he's going to spend listening to your story.
Right. So like, obviously, hey guys, if you're out there, man, if you're in a position of higher authority, you got to watch how your relationship with the inmates is perceived. Because the inmate will take advantage of it if it's perceived as being too close to the inmate population, and then your name will get thrown out there. And I know, at least for me, I'm sure the same thing for Connie. If I had an officer call me that was getting ready to do their job, doing what they were supposed to do, and they called me and said, hey, Gange, by the way, I went to go write up this inmate, and the inmate just dropped your name or dropped Connie's name, I'm going to go see that inmate personally. I'm sure you would too. And you would put that inmate right in their place, right in front of that officer to let that inmate know where they belong. Correct?
Yes. I mean, because listen, I think not only do the inmates try to give the perception that there's some sort of relationship because they want to leverage that relationship as power, whether it's real or not, but they're also, so they're using that against the staff. So like if the staff can see that you have like some sort of relationship, not that type of relationship, but you've got there's some sort of relationship that inmate has to you, right? Like I've had inmates, oh, hey, Miss Connie, can I ask you a question? What? Miss Connie, like you my friend? And no, that's I mean, so like on one end, you want to kind of have that perception of being approachable. I think on the other end, though, you have to be able to set the boundaries. So if it's Miss Connie, you want to talk to me about something, it's going to need to be something that's not within the scope of the other people that you're jumping over to get to me, or else I'm going to redirect you, because I don't want you to think you have that kind of power or that kind of leverage. And I don't want the other inmates to think that you've got some kind of power that just doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I like what you said, Connie, because you can still be approachable and still let the inmates know who owns the house. Like, even as, you know, I'm not, listen, let's be honest here. And I don't know if most people are going to agree with this, but it does pertain to what we're talking about here in regards to that relationship and why it's very important that you let the inmates know that this is the officer's floor, this is the staff member's floor, whatever way, you know, where the authority is supposed to go, right? So I would say, at least talking from a custody perspective, even if I'm a warden and I'm touring the units, I'm still going to give respect because it's still the officer's house. Yes, I could be the landlord, right? That's fine. You want to call me the landlord, that's fine. You know, but at the end of the day is even landlords show respect when they walk into someone else's apartment that they may own. I'm not going to go in and start rearranging their furniture. You know, I trust them that their furniture is good. They're not, as long as they're not destroying my house, this is your property, treat it as such. So same thing here. I think the warden or the administrator, higher level, can still be approachable, you know, still, you know, communicate with the inmates. That's what they're supposed to do. But still at the same time, balance that with, you have a concern, this is who owns the house. This is the house right here. This is, you're not going to jump the chain. And how they do that is pretty much simple. Inmate comes up and you talk to them first. You know, let them know that they're, and that's great, because I'll tell you something. That's when you start seeing staff motivated to kind of keep doing their job, because they know that, okay, well, at least, let's say there is a concern, at least I'm the one that has the administrator's ear, or at least my supervisor has the administrator's ear, and it's not the inmate. I think that's the key. Yes, don't get me wrong, you have to be fair and balanced, but at the end of the day, there is a level of command that both custody has to follow, and yes, also the inmates. The inmates should not have a direct leap. They shouldn't. And again, custody definitely doesn't. So I think that's great in what you said.
I mean, I've even had the experience of coming out into the medical unit and an inmate come in, hey, Miss Connie, I really want to talk to you. And I'd walk that inmate right to the officer's desk. It's not like you get to talk to me on the side. Like, I'm not going to allow you to kind of give off that vibe. that I could just walk in. I was meaning to talk to you about something. I don't have no dealings with no inmates. What could you be wanting to talk to me about? So let me walk you over to the officer's desk so that he can hear what you want to talk to me about. And also, if there's some reason why, like, I am not the right person, I'm going to just have him address you and your situation right there and then, as opposed to trying to use me for that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And now, guys, I'm sure there's many ways that inmates can be passive aggressive. There is another way that came to mind just now is leverage. You know, if somewhere along the line you give inmate leverage that they can use against you, which could be, you know, anytime that you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. You know, like I know some inmates may come up and say, "Hey, Gan, supervisor's coming." It's like, okay, I don't care. Let the supervisor come. There's nothing that I'm not doing that. I'm not really concerned. If they're coming, they're coming. I'm not going to change my behavior because they're coming into the unit. But sometimes what happens is that, you know, we may not be on point with what we do. The inmate gets the ability to collect leverage, and then they try to go ahead and say, well, if you don't do this, or if you write me up, I'll be quick to go ahead and do this, this, and this. The moment they collect leverage, they have the level of authority.
Absolutely.
Please guys, don't do anything foolish to the point where the inmate can collect it. And the moment that you have to enforce the rules, they're able to kick back and say, well, if you want to do that to me, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And it could be passive aggressive at first, but you know, it's not going to be the moment that, you know, okay, well, I'm still going to write them. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead. Now it becomes overt. Now it becomes aggressive.
I mean, sometimes I think it also plays into them knowing the rules better than we do. Sometimes because they know the policies, the procedures, they know when when we are or aren't doing what we're supposed to be doing. So it may not necessarily be you doing some kind of wrongdoing, but like they don't got nothing else to do. So they're kind of just taking notes. You know, here's the routine that you follow, which is not what the other officer is doing. Or this is what I know we're supposed to be doing in these situations. And when we're not doing it, they're taking notes. And then it becomes a thing, right? You know, it becomes that thing that they're able to leverage over you because, you know, you jammed up unless you're willing to hold yourself accountable and kind of do what you got to do to kind of alleviate that leverage that they have.
You know, and you're on point.
It.
No, you're right. And you're on point, especially with policy and procedure, because inmates know to some extent, you know, pretty much they do know what our jobs, what our job is, what we're supposed to do, the tours that we're supposed to take, or you have an officer that takes it down on third shift. You know, now let's say you try to be an officer at one moment, the inmate could easily say, okay, you sure you want to do that? Because this unit's cambered, and all I got to do is tell them to check the cameras from 1 to 3 in the morning. And they'll see that you're not doing your tours, or they'll see. So you have to be on point, because if you're not, it could give the inmates some leverage. And then now the problem here is that you're going to have to make a choice. Do the right thing. Don't let that inmate get that chance to exploit the fact that you're not doing the job correctly. Say, you know what? I got to run this. I'm going to go back and say, hey, by the way, this is what it is. This is what it is. And then here's the funny thing. I'm probably going to get in trouble. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I'm also going to write up that inmate. And that inmate's going to wind up saying, hey, you don't have any leverage on me. Why? Because, you know, I manned up. You know, I had a bad night that one night, and you're right. I was tired, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, you're not going to control me because I may have slipped up. I'm going to go ahead and do the right thing. And guys, I know it's harder to do than it is for me to say it. But at the end of the day, you have to do that, because if you're not on point, like Connie said, you're giving the inmates the leverage that they need to maneuver and take away that perception of authority that you need to have. Connie, can you think of any other passive aggressive ways? Or, I mean, we covered a few enough to start the dialogue.
So I'm thinking whether or not this is passive aggressive. I'm just going to put it out there. So I recall when I was a discharge planner, you know, I had this guy who was really trying to like control the conversation. And I was just really learning how to navigate that. And so when I wouldn't do, or I wouldn't agree to what he wanted me to do, like he was trying to get set up in some program or something, he stood up. Like, so he was physically tall, like he was big. So he didn't make a threat verbally, but like his body language, his body itself, just his stature. And like, he kind of gave me a look and he walked out. Right. So like, I feel like those are kind of a way, like if an inmate knows that they have possibly a threatening stature, Like, is there a way that they could use that? Or I'm thinking that's like a way to use that as a threat without necessarily being threatening.
And I would say, yeah, of course, 100%. And I would actually say, Connie, that's the one point where you have to reinforce your foundation of authority. Because if that gets out, that, you know, there's a physical fear of the inmates, you'll be walked on. So for anybody watching this.
So my response wasn't, I was afraid of him, but I think he was I think that was the attempt, like to use his body physically to make me be afraid or to submit to his request. And I didn't. You know, to me, it was just like, okay, like the officer's right there. Like I wasn't feeling that kind of way threatened, but I feel like there's a way that those who have like a bigger body just in general can use that as a way of being threatening or imposing fear without necessarily speaking words to make you feel fearful.
Yeah, well, 100%, because when he stand, he was looking to see how you react. You know, and obviously he did walk away, so you didn't give him what he wanted. But I do want people to know that now, mind you, you had support. Now imagine if you were by yourself.
I would have stood up.
Right. That's all. Most of the time, but can I tell you something? Most of the time, that's what it is. You know, it could be just that fear tactic. And most of the time, they're hoping that just their presence can get them what they want when at first you're resistant to giving them what they want. But sometimes just the fact that you stand up for yourself and it makes it harder for them to go ahead and push that stature. Sometimes they'll pull back. Sometimes. Yeah. You know, sometimes that attempt could be, I'm chesting out and I'm getting ready. But if they're flaunting it, maybe they're going to try to see if they can push that stature around. But at the end of the day, look, I'm 5'5". You know, it doesn't mean that it would be, I guess the word delegation, would you say delegation of authority? It doesn't mean it's not as powerful as someone that's 6'6". You know what I mean? All it means is the fact that you got to have heart. And when the person does that, you just got to stand. And in fact, even if you're a bigger person yourself, doesn't mean that you can't be nervous. I mean, there's guys that are 5'5" that can knock out someone that's, 6'6", but at the end of the day, I like what you said, you stood up, you knew where your support was, and the physical stature meant nothing to you. Yeah. All right, I see what you're doing. But that's not going to make me hesitant and do what I have to do. But I you know what's funny? I would say it's past, because the question was it passive aggressive or aggressive? I think it's both, because I think it's passive aggressive, maybe because they're hoping that just by standing up, but I also think it's aggressive because it's an aggressive move, because it's not subtle. It's not something that you have to think about. Like, I'll give you an example. We talked about the lawyer. That's something like, well, what does he mean by that? Like, I'm not understanding what that means. So it's passive because you have to interpret the meaning of what they're getting at. But if I had an inmate just stand up and chest out with me, I understand what you're saying, where it could be passive, but I also think it's aggressive in nature, because automatically I could see myself saying, seeing this, is this person trying to be a threat to me right now because I just told them no? What is this person trying to do? And then again, just to reiterate, it's very important that that's something that we never back down from, because if we back down from that, we will literally, we will get walked all over on. And Connie, you have anything that you want to say, like in closing? Just a quick dialogue, but anything you want to say in closing?
Man, I just want to say, like, this environment in of itself can be threatening. And I think we have to acknowledge that there are going to be some triggers within us because we're human, right? Like, we're going to be faced with situations that make us nervous, that make us feel uncertain or afraid. But I also feel like we've got to acknowledge that in that environment, we can't give up our authority. We can't, not to say you can't show the fear, but like when you're being challenged, that's not the time for you to back down. That is the time for you to assert yourself. And if you're a little more timid, that's when you find your voice, because then you become, the doormat, and that's not the position you want to be in.
Yeah. And again, it's all about perception of authority. So the reason why we had the dialogue is really to take note of the passive aggressive attempts that you may not realize the inmate's trying to employ, like dropping the warden's name, or I got a lawyer, You know, don't every time they say that, guys, they're taking a bit of your authority away, and you have to be able to react and take that back. Do not let them get that off. And again, if you understand what I'm saying, next time when it happens to you, you're probably going to feel a little something about it, because now you know that statement connects to your level of authority, and automatically we have to protect that. So as always, guys, the show is Tier Talk, just a quick dialogue. I thought it was fun. And if you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Guys, don't forget, Connie's book is released. The Cage Was Her Cocoon. It's out right now. And I said it right, Connie?
Yes, you did.
Okay, just making sure. Again, congratulations. It's a wonderful read. And guys, for $25, she will autograph the book. So you can find it on
www.thecagewashercocoon.com.
Guys, same title as the book, The Cage Was Her Cocoon. And what a beautiful cover. All right, guys, as always, guys, stay safe.
Whoa.